Hey friends, welcome back to Confidence and Coffee, where we keep it real, raw, and a little bit caffeinated. I'm your host, Ashley Henriott, speaker, author, and your go-to hype girl for when life feels like a lot. Around here, we talk about things that keep you up at night. Self-doubt, fear, people-pleasing, faith, and finding your voice again, without the fluff. So grab your coffee, pull up a seat, and let's talk about stuff that actually matters. That's all I have to say about today's episode. You guys, we go in to talking with Tiffany Sauder. And can I just say, wise, powerful, genuine, authentic, and real? You guys, Confidence and Coffee is bringing you a good one today. And I'm so happy that you're listening in. I'm so honored that you're here with us today. This episode's going to be for you. For the woman who needs to learn a logical, practical framework and how to balance her family, her business, and herself. And so Tiffany talks about that with us. Tiffany is a mom of 4. She's gorgeous. She's a happy wife. She's an entrepreneur, a CEO, and she's built a remarkable life with 4 kids, 3 businesses, and 2 careers. Now she has an academy where she helps women just like you, just like me, truly get it right in our season, to be successful in our season and not just survive in it. She knows what that's like. She knows the struggle and she gets vulnerable with us. She's spoken on hundreds of stages. And we also get to talk about her podcast. Her podcast is called Life of And. What does that mean? She talks about how we can do all the things that we desire to do. We don't have to put anything back. We just need to clean it up a little bit. So get ready to be so enlightened, encouraged in today's episode, and hopefully truly and real get empowered. Not false, toxic positivity and fake empowerment by fake women, but by somebody's real that's walked through it. And she truly is here with a passion and a mission to help us ambitious women reach the desires that God placed on our hearts, take care of our family, our responsibilities, and be able to truly breathe. So get cozy. Today's going to be a fun one. And again, you guys know what to do. Subscribe to our YouTube channel. Okay, hit the subscribe button. Leave a rating or review. Share with us what this episode brought to you and the value it brought to you on social media and tag me in it so I can learn more about you and I can share in this celebration with you and we can share with the world. So I love you guys. Let's get ready to all gain some nuggies, some wisdom, and some real empowerment. You guys, I'm really excited. I say that a million times. I know that I do. But I have a new friend here who it really is a powerhouse and she has values, including her family, and she's a successful businesswoman. We are with Tiffany, and Tiffany, if I say your last name wrong, please correct me, but it's Sauder. Is it Sauder?
It's Sauder, like rhymes with chowder, which I'm sorry I didn't help you with that.
Mine's intimidating. It's Henriott, but I tell everybody it's like Marriott. Henriott with an H. So Chowder Sauder. I got you, girl.
Yeah.
We're here with Tiffany Sauder, who compares her last name with Chowder, and that helps me remember. See how brilliant she is? Listen, you're doing all the things, Tiff, and you're helping women who are also doing all the things. Tiffany is a successful businesswoman and entrepreneur, even busy now, and she helps us with how to balance redefined. Okay. How to can win, how to say goodbye to overwhelm. How many of us really want to do that? Because we live in a culture where we truly are all overwhelmed and you can have it all. This one was mostly my favorite when I read up on her because she talks about, and you can have it all, saying goodbye to guilt. Women, come on, moms, and feel confidently present with your family. She's a beautiful family. Tiff, I could talk about you the whole time, but I'll give it up to you. What is your story? I mean, you talk like you inspire us like we're in therapy kind of. It's so good to connect with you and what you do and what inspired you to truly connect with other women, professional women that are in business, are leaders, or just truly like leading their family.
Yeah. So thanks for having me, Ashley, and I appreciate all the work that you're doing for sure. yeah, kind of a quick skip through my life. I'm a small town kid. I grew up in the middle of nowhere, Indiana. And so I grew up in a really traditional sort of family setting. My mom stayed home with us and raised us kids. We were really close to tons of family. We had a really strong church nucleus. My dad farmed when I was super young and started a business when I was in kind of upper elementary school. So, like, hard work, family values was really what I grew up around. And I, just sort of imagined that that's what my life would look like too, that it would probably be the same. And as I started to get older, I started to realize, man, I joke, I say I'm a small town kid born with a big city spirit. I just was like, we would go to Chicago and Indianapolis and New York, and I would just like, oh my word, I love the speed of life here. I love the lights. I just like love it all. And so as you kind of leave home and start to make different choices. I went to college. I got a finance degree. I started out at a big pharma company in finance, and I started to realize, like, man, all along the way, I sort of thought my life would go just like my mom's, even in spite of the fact that I was like 25, 26, and my life looked like nothing like my mom's when she was that age. And so I started just trying to reconcile, what does it look like to be a working mom, to be called outside of the home, to want a big family. My husband and I also have 4 kids, to want to feel like you have put what you want to into your marriage, and also have the spirit and heart and energy of an achiever. And I want to do big things. I wanted to build businesses. I wanted to build leaders. I wanted to lead teams. I want to travel and go places. And so I was trying to figure out how to reconcile all of these things I wanted to be. And so I talk now about helping particularly professional women build a life of because when you're built with a heart that wants to just say yes to everything, figuring out how to do it starts to become the real puzzle in life. And so I think, like most of us who are on this content journey, we started out by doing it pretty wrong. At least I did. And I had a lot of things that I learned along the way. In my city, I'm somewhat visible among young women. And so I started finding myself at the same coffees, the same lunches, the same questions, and my brain recognizes patterns. And I started to realize I'm really answering the same things over and over for these young women. I'm really answering the same thing over and over for these women. I'll be 45 this year, that are kind of mid-career, mid raising your kids, mid just max. It's the same things over and over. And so how do I start to build some tools and some things at scale to be able to help women who have the same spirit I do, but do it in a way that really starts to say, I have agency over my life. I created these problems. I can uncreate them too. And so how do I do this in a way that is just more elegant, more sustainable, has more intimacy and peace in it? And we're not just reacting to our choices.
Yeah, amen. And like, we're getting out of that whole boss babe toxic positivity era, and we're becoming really real and self-reflective of ourselves and where we are. And that's something that I appreciate about you, Tiffany, is that you truly are helping us look where we are, but also have hope and passion that we can do it. We don't have to settle for a life like of or just like this is what it is, but you help us find very confident contentment. Like, if I had to describe you in anything, is to be able to be content but confident enough to pursue all the things that God has in our hearts, and being true to ourselves. Like, you were true to yourself in your leadership. You were true to yourself, and like, my life's very different than my mom's, and that's okay.
Mm-hmm.
And you're okay, and
Totally.
you grew okay with that.
Mm-hmm.
So here's another thing. I was like, girl, you need to help out another sister for selfish reasons. But you founded the marketing agency Element 3.
Mm-hmm.
Um, and then, you and your husband both built that together. And you have other companies. Do you want to talk about what that is? Like, what started that? What inspired you to do that?
Yeah, so he actually does not work in the agency. So I was 25 when I purchased a tiny agency. It was under $500,000 in revenue. My dad was the financial partner, and I say I was the sweat equity partner. I've since bought my dad out, and myself and the president CEO who runs it today, we're the sole owners. But I really spent the first 20 years of my career building that agency. All business is hard. We were on the Inc. 5000 list 6 years in a row. We've won lots of growth awards and things in our industry. And I wanted to build something excellent. And I think that's a really noble cause. I just didn't know how to do that well alongside building my family at the exact same time. I had 4 kids over 3 different decades. And my husband has a massive career. He's an Ivy League athlete and has lots of expectations. He too is a firstborn. And so we we've had we've spent some time in therapy and had therapists say, man, when you guys are on, it's like a 12 out of 10. And when you're off, it's like a -2 out of 10. And
Mm.
it's so true because we're so similar in our makings. And there's so much delight and joy in that, but we've had to work really, really hard in how we just how we navigate the fact that we both have massive things that we want out of life, and there's kind of no one willing to take the back seat, and so we've had to figure that out. So I don't remember your question, but that's kind of how we got here. So 20 years in, you said my husband and I, 20 years in, to the agency, I decided about 3 years ago, I could kind of see the ages of my kids and where they were going to be. I'm a startup founder, executive entrepreneur. I'm not a scale up one. And so it was starting to get to the size and complexity that was no longer in my unique giftings. And I was feeling that. I just wasn't waking up with the same energy. I was
Mm.
seeing where our family was going to be going. And I knew my husband was going to have some pretty spectacular professional opportunities presented to him that I knew was going to require quite a bit of travel. And so just, when I talk about a life of and, it is not a perpetual life of yes. It is about being very strategic about saying in each season of life, what are the most important things that I want to do, experience, learn, teach, train? And how do I align all of my time and money to those things? Because without clarity in those things for ourselves and our families, other people's requests of our time, other people's requests of our money, other people's requests for our family time start to become what we consume instead of saying, no, I'm going to consume the life that I create versus consuming the life and decisions that I'm just reacting to.
Ooh, that is a word, Tiff. That is a word. And that takes a lot of self reflection. And you speak about that. Like you talk about that. You talk about, and you have a podcast, and we just spoke about that. The podcast is called Life of and Podcast. And in your podcast on hundreds of stages, you talk about those vulnerable parts, like 20 years of your career mixed with the vulnerable and the real time of your life and your marriage and your parenting adventures. You wear a lot of hats, Steph. And I think that that can speak for all of us entrepreneurs and mission ambitious, women and men. And I'm curious, like, through all of it, to be that consistent and to wear all these hats. And you do it well. You have a gorgeous family. They have a gorgeous family. You're constantly pushing the boundaries, like, of the life of and. Could you break that down in your own personal experience? What really brought you to that?
Yeah. And then I think maybe we can move to a framework to help people kind of think about how to build their own life of and. Um, I kind of how I got to the framework and the vocabulary was that in 2018, I almost lost all the things I had been working so hard for. My marriage was in a really difficult place. My business was in a really difficult place. And I felt like I had somehow built a prison that I was living in because all I did was kind of wake up and perform my life. I wasn't really existing in any of it. And I was like, I've never worked so hard at something and felt like I was failing so swiftly at it all. And so I realized if I didn't really start to look at my life differently, my life was going to be very different. And so what I started to realize was that when I laid in bed at night and was quiet and wanted to cry and in my most vulnerable place, the first thing I thought of was, well, what do I have to stop to create the capacity to keep everything I have? And I was like, well, I don't want to stop my marriage because it's going to take a lot of work to repair it, but I want to keep that. I don't want to give up my kids. I want them in my life. And so I kept going, like, the only thing left is to give up my job. It's the only thing left. I have to give up my job. And it felt like I was picking between oxygen and food, that like without one of them, I was going to die. It's like, well, if I pick all of these things, that's like picking food. I don't have any oxygen and vice versa. So I started to realize I have an or mindset. I don't actually believe that my personal peace and contentment with my life, my relationships with my family, and my achievement in my business, I actually don't believe that all three of those things can exist together. Because I've proven to myself in my current patterns of behavior that when I go at all of them out of 10, if that fails me. And so to give up one is the way that I'm going to rescue myself. And I started to realize that's not true. I just have bad habits inside of those choices. And so
Mm.
how do I do a better job inside of those two things versus saying the first thing I have to do is give up my job and give up the thing that in so many ways gives me I've gotten through the identity part, but just gives me a lot of purpose. And that was how I got to this place of if I want a life of and, you have to first start with the belief that it's possible. And then you start working on the tools and the choices and the behaviors and the discipline to get you there. Just like if you're trying to get into shape or lose weight, you first have to believe your body can do it. You have to believe that you deserve it. You have to believe that there's time for it. You have to believe like you those things. And then the behavior starts to flow from that belief. It does not work the other way around. And so that's really how we got to here.
Wow, that's so good. And you make it so practical. So talk to me about that framework. You make it so practical, like and reachable for us that where those kind of things can seem intimidating.
Yeah. So I kind of just referenced this, but if you picture like a Venn diagram, like from, I don't know, like fifth grade math, and you've got three circles, the middle of which is overlapping. One circle is career, one circle is self, and one circle is family. And so inside of career is like, even if you don't have a job that pays you like Ashley and I, even a place where you volunteer or serve at church or any place in the external world that you're giving your time and talent to. That's what I mean by career. Self is your spiritual life, your physical fitness, your friendships, those habits, routines, and people that make you feel like you are your whole best self. And then family, for me, that's my nuclear family. For others, that might be chosen family. That's the family circle. So picture those three circles in a Venn diagram. So they're like, you know what that is, Ashley? Yeah. The three circles,
Yes,
they're overlapping in the middle. Remember this from fifth grade math or
I
whenever.
was about to say.
Yeah. So we are only living in two of those. So if we're living in the center of those, where self, family, and external vocation career are all being fed at an intensity that makes us feel satisfied, that's the life of and. That's it. Simply stated, that's the life of and.
Mm,
Self, career, and family are fed at an intensity that is sustainable and makes us feel happy. Like makes us feel peaceful, makes us feel connected. That's life of and. When we don't live in that middle part, we tend to go to one of three places where there's only two that exist. So this is where I end up when I'm not inside of my life of and. If you're only in serving family and serving career. So again, we picture this Venn diagram where only those two circles exist. Self, we've kind of lost sight of that. Only career and family are being fed. That's where we become this grumpy servant. And we take on this, I call this unbalanced character. This is maybe Ashley too, where
hmm
everything external to us is being fed and we start to resent the very things that we said we wanted and we thought we loved because we get taken captive by it. And
Yeah.
we let go of any of those disciplines, any of those minimums, any of those practices that make us feel seen, felt, relevant, important in our own lives. And we're so extended in these two places that we start to feel invisible. And then we become resentful of the things that we started to love. So that's the grumpy servant. That's there's three unbalanced characters, these people that we become that kind of take over our personalities, our, the tone of your voice changes, the way you interact with your kids, the way you interact with your inbox. All of it is different when you're not in a place of saying, oh, I'm inside of my life event. If you got up and worked out that morning, if you had some time to yourself, you're just in a totally different place. So that first one, the unbalanced character, is the grumpy servant. And I find that's generally about 80% of women. Is this you, Ashley? Does that connect with you?
Oh, yeah. That's why I had you on the podcast. Like, and what I find, and I wanted to ask you next was like, because I know you talk about that. You talk about being tired and reactive and overwhelmed, and you make it realistic where it's like, yeah, everybody says have your dreams, but like, can you really have these three areas fulfilled and sustainable? And it does start with self. I completely agree. But like, I've gotten into places because we do all the things that you kind of get confused. You get to where you're almost confused about what you're doing or why you're doing it or what you're even supposed to do now when you're
Right.
in like an imbalanced part of career, like you said, like family.
Yeah, so
And
let's
then,
finish the framework and then we can go through some of those things about how do you make it sustainable. So when only we just would pick up when only family and career are present and we lose self, then we know that we're a grumpy servant. The other two places are when career and self, only those two are present and family is not. Those two overlapping is called the lonely achiever. So this is where my husband can go when he's been traveling a bunch. He's really disciplined. It's like no matter how many minutes of sleep he got the night before, he'll get up and work out. He doesn't need that much sleep. And he's just super disciplined. He's good about golfing with his dad. He's good about keeping up with his hobbies. He's good about his workout routine. And he's really responsible and amazing at his job. And if he is not careful, he can float away from me and the family because he's got lots of external demands on his time. And that's the lonely achiever spot where us grumpy servants look at the lonely achiever. I'm married to one when he gets out of balance. And I'm like, you are a brave man for going on a run after being gone for 7 days, and it's like, I'm mostly mad at him because I haven't had the same discipline for myself. I'm not actually mad that he's doing that. I'm jealous and I
Mm.
don't have the vocabulary to say that. And so it's coming out in all kinds of passive aggressive ways, which looks really weird and is super deteriorates the relationship. Instead of us saying, how are we agents for one another to stay inside of our individual life event? So when he's literally, today's day 7, he's been gone for a week. And I know within 24 hours of him getting home, he'll ask me, did you get your minimums in for your workouts? Which is one of my strategies. What are your minimums? What is the least amount that you can do against your goals that makes you feel satisfied?
Oh,
And do that
wow.
52 weeks out of the year. So my goal is to work out 4 times a week and to get 8,000 steps a day. That's my goal. That happens probably 70% of the time, but 100% of the time in a year, my minimum happens. And that is 2 lifts to work, 2 like weight training sessions in a week. That's my minimum. 52 weeks a year. We're on vacation. Every kid is puking. My husband is traveling. I'm sick. I've never been sick for 7 days in a row. I've been sick for 5 days in a row. I've had kids puke for 3 days in a row. I've had my lots of things can happen. I can always make 2 happen. And he knows that's my minimum. That's an agreement that we have. And when he's home, he helps support that because he knows that keeps me in my life of and out of dropping into that grumpy servant. Same thing. He will be back tonight after being gone for 7 days. It's a long time to be away from a busy family that has a lot going on. He's missed a ton. Even though he texts us and stays connected and calls for a few minutes each evening, he's busy and distracted and our lives are running fast. And so we will make sure to sit down as a family for dinner within 48 hours of my husband getting home. It's an agreement that we have that helps him reconnect to the girls, helps us reconnect to him culturally because I get very independent. We get in our own flow, it's moving fast. And he can start to feel like an accessory. He's out in the world working so hard for us. And he comes home and we're like, don't even acknowledge it practically, is how he can start to feel like, dang, I am out here. It's not that fun to be on the road for 7 days. He's been in probably 4 different hotels on like 8 different planes in a couple different time zones. It's like brutal. But you can glamorize that when you're the one home of like, must be nice to be able to eat your whole meal. Must be nice to be able to have your own time. Must be nice. It's like, no, it's actually not. So
Preach.
one of the explicit agreements that we have is that we'll have dinner as a family so that we can reconnect to him and he can reconnect to us. So this is one of my tools. Minimums. It's the minimum amount that you can do against the things that you care most about and hold yourself maniacally accountable to those. You can always overachieve it and have very explicit agreements in place so that you're not kind of warring over really implicit choices. The last one I'll talk about, and then I can take a breath. Ashley, thanks for letting me ramble so much.
I love it.
The third one is when you have most naturally prioritized self and family, and that's called a fearful loyalist. So the outside world is really intimidating. The idea of volunteering for something at church, or you've been raising your kids for 20 years and now you're thinking about going back to work, that feels scary and you feel very isolated inside of your own habits and practices for yourself and the care that you've taken for your family. I see this a lot in my age, 45. Those who had kids young, the kids are starting to get pretty independent. They're driving. Maybe one's going to go to college in a year or so. And some of my friends are really struggling in this fearful loyalist place where it's like, dang, I need to figure out how to step out. So knowing these unbalanced characters that we naturally can sort of regress into when left to our own devices helps us create vocabulary for the living with the people that we love so that we can all live inside of the center life of and helps us establish really clear practices for how do we fight against the gravitational pull towards our, kind of our tendency, which mine is to let go of my own disciplines and my own self-care. And how do you get the people who love you involved in that process so that you are not kind of in that fight alone, but they're supporting you in those goals.
That's so good. Do you teach all this in your academy? You guys, she
Yes.
doesn't only have a podcast, but she also has a very successful academy, Life of and Academy. Do you teach these systems and these frameworks?
Yep, exactly, Ashley. So I've put all this into a digital course, virtual learning experience. And over the course of 8 weeks, there's kind of 4 major teaching segments to it. Yeah, there's videos of me teaching this, there's worksheets you can interact with, and there's really strategic tools to get your family involved because it's not, I feel like as the mom, it's not just about making my life successful. I picture our family as a puzzle where each of us is a piece that takes up space and needs to be connected. And that's sort of would be helpful, but as your kids are growing and you're growing, our puzzle pieces are evolving always, and so we have to constantly be in tune as the integrator of our home to understand each person's puzzle. What are their priorities? What are mine? And how do I get this puzzle to fit together in each season of our lives? So that's the great challenge as a mom. And so I've worked really hard to export the tools that we use in our own family so that others can do the same.
I need to hire you.
You
Which is
can
like
do my course. You can do my course.
which brings me to this question. Because I told you I'm going through separation. And so I'm literally having to my life blew up in the midst of launching my book last October. And then months before that, losing my sister to an OD an hour after I lost my grandmother
Oh my
in her
gosh.
house. And so I'm just rebuilding my life when I was just getting started. Does that make
Mm,
sense?
yeah.
And so you know how long these things take. My two questions for you is one, is this something you're always having to check in with because life adjusts and things change and seasons change and you can't control certain circumstances? Are you always having to check in those three areas? And then the second thing is in those transitions, where do you find yourself in the regard of reevaluating? Like you ran this market, you have these companies, but how did you know, okay, I did that. Like you talked about how you woke up a little different. What do you do in those senses? Like when there's change, what do you do? Like, do you have to constantly check those frameworks and how do you adjust them?
Yeah, I do think the unbalanced character can change as life changes. I think we always have a primary. What I would say, Ashley, when I am in what feels like a tornado, which I'm sure is what your life feels like right now as you're just trying to figure out what direction the wind is blowing, is to get intensely focused on the most important things and say no to like 40% of your life for a season. Things that feel good when you are sorting through a lot of not good, but things that feel like important and productive. I've always, even like in seasons, I've dropped out of things like small group, but not because I didn't want the community, but it was like literally the most important thing right now is as much skin time with my teenagers as possible. So if they want to be home with friends, I am home with friends.
That's me. I have a 15-year-old. That's my life. I actually had to put my book promotion down with
Yeah.
the biggest publishing house in the world. And I had to put it down, get with my team, put it down because my kids needed me.
Yeah.
Like I
I love
needed to
it.
be present with them. That was the most important thing.
Mhm.
And now that we're getting kind of on a routine, I'm still present with them. We're all in therapy,
Mhm.
all on medication, let's be real. But now I'm trying to figure out financially what does life look like a
Mhm.
consistent financial income so we can breathe. And I
Mhm.
could still do the and. I can
Mhm.
still do the and. I can still do the successes that are on my heart to do, but all while continually staying present in this area. What
Yeah,
would you
my
say?
advice is always to get to safety as fast as possible. What I mean by that, like let's take financial. I'm not a financial planner. I can tell you in my businesses, when we were going through seasons of major change, we would get to safety as quick as possible. And that would be like, how do we get to profitability as quickly as possible? How do we get to a place where your safety, because then you are working from a place that is like each increment that you're adding is actually going off of solid ground, where if it's like, hey, we're in a deficit and it's like every month we're going down 12 grand and up 17 and down this and up this, it's like you can never make up ground. Whatever choices have to be made, like get to quote unquote safety financially. That's awesome that you guys are in therapy. That's like That's really important in times of change too. And make life as simple as possible because you have less capacity than you realize when your body's going through trauma.
Oh, yeah, I'm on like 5 different medications. Anyways, enough about me. Tiffany, I know we're on a time crunch because technology is not it sucks sometimes. I know I want to know more about you. I want to know more about where I can connect with you and get your resources. Where can we connect? Where can my audience connect with you?
Yeah, so you can go to tiffanysauder.com. I'm sure you'll put that in show notes because my last name can be a little tricky to spell. So it's Tiffany, Tiffany Sauder, SAUDER.com. And that's where you can find my podcast and a link to my academy. It's under $100 right now because I really want to get the academy in as many hands as possible. Literally, it's like generally we're selling it for like $695. And so
Go
if it's
get it.
something you want to look at right now as people are transitioning into summer, I really want you to have this toolbox. So go check that out. My podcast is called Life of And. Life of And. You'll see me in a lot of pink on the cover. And yeah, really helping people who have a heart of and actually break it down and try to get it all. So we have a lot of amazing things in our family, a lot of amazing things in our lives, and none of it came by accident.
Amen. And listen, we want to talk about the summer because we women, that is a precious time. And it's like, how do we, I hate the word balance, Tiff, but how do we do it all? So I want you back on. I want to talk about that. Like, I want you on yesterday to talk about your thoughts on like, how do we do that? So,
Well, I can give you a 2-minute rundown. Can we do that? Because we got to be done in
is
4
that
minutes.
okay?
Yes, I can do 2 minutes on it. Here's what I
Okay.
would say. Do this one thing. Have all of your kids write down 4 things that they want to, it can be any combination. They want to do, they want to learn, they want to go, they want to see, they want to experience, they want to eat, they want to like 4 things. Everybody from our family is going to have 4 things that they want to do this summer. And have a family meeting, get everybody together after dinner on Sunday or whatever it looks like, and have everybody share out loud their 4 things that they want to do this summer. And then as the integrator of the family, as the mom who's getting it all together, print out a calendar and schedule all of it. There's a much longer process, but do that. Everyone in your family feeling seen. You said your youngest is 6, Ashley, is that right?
She's 5, yeah. And we
5,
do
okay.
that. We do that thing, but like, yeah. But also it's like, yeah, no, we can't go to Hawaii and also the Outer Banks.
Well, so then say, what do you want to do? Like, what would you do in Hawaii? Like, take some part of what they want to do in Hawaii and figure out a way to do it in your home, or have a Hawaiian luau for dinner one night. Like, get a lei and get some plates and put Hawaii on the, like, yes, you can. You know what I mean? And that's like a life of and. Yes, you can. You might not actually be able to get them on a plane to Hawaii, but you can bring Hawaii into their summer.
I received that, girl. Yeah, I'm
Yes,
totally
you
doing this.
can. That's what I mean. You have to believe it. When you start with, there's no way, that's how we solve. When you say, yes, I can, but how? I can give them a Hawaiian experience where they felt like they went to, because they don't even know what Hawaii really is. You know what I mean?
That's good. I'm totally stealing that now, taking all of this. Thank you.
You're welcome.
Because we do this every summer and it's always like we've come down to like, okay, we can do these things consistently a week, like go get ice cream. We can pick one big trip. Like I've kind of like boundaried them out
Yeah.
where it's like, okay, they all get to pick a place they want to go this summer. And then we all agree to one. And then what is one thing we could do a week? What is one thing we could do a month? What is something really special we can do around here where we
Yeah.
live?
That's
And I
great.
put them in categories because I'm like, your girl is on a budget. But I love you. And
Yeah. And there's lots of ways to do that. I mean, go to Goodwill and everybody gets a funny outfit and they have to do it for less than $6. Like there's so many ways to have fun that doesn't have to be spending hundreds and hundreds of dollars.
I love this. I love this. Tiffany, you guys hear that? It's a precious time. Make it fun. Um, Again, go check her out. Check out her podcast, her academy. You cannot beat that price. The fact that she gave us this in a little bit of time that she did is phenomenal. So let's go gain more. I know I'm going to. Thank you so much for coming on Confidence and Coffee. I really do appreciate you. I know your time is short. I will let you go, but I do hope to have you back in this family.
Sounds great, Ashley. Thanks so much. Appreciate it.
Hey, you guys, if this episode hit home, do me a favor. Screenshot it, share it to your stories, and tag me, Ashley Henriot, so I can hype you up. And if you're feeling bold, leave a review. It helps this podcast reach more women who need it. Remember, confidence isn't something we wait for. It's something you build. Keep going, keep growing, and I'll see you next time on Confidence and Coffee right here.